Hey, Rachel Miner here. I'm so glad you're with me today. I would love to talk about sleep. Just to give you a little background about me, I have never, ever, ever in my life been a morning girl. I grew up in a household. I had 9 siblings, and my parents and my siblings, we all stayed up late all the time. Like, I never had a curfew. I never had a time to get in bed. I'm sure my mother wished we were on a schedule, but we lived in this old turn of the century house. It was built in 1905, and it was this brick house, and it was a tiny brick house right as you entered our tiny little town. And it was this old brick house, but it had windows all around it, and the whole front of the house was just these really big windows. And our lights were on all the time. And so people in the neighborhood would joke that, like, they knew they were almost home when they would see the lighthouse, because when you passed our house, it looked just like a lighthouse, all lit up at all hours of the night. So they were like, okay, kids, we passed the lighthouse, we're almost home. So that was a little bit about my growing up. And then for sleeping, and then it was like 10 p.m. and my dad would like get out the ice cream, like my dad was a night person. And so we would like stay up and just party all night long. And so it was really hard when I first got married, because my husband was not a night person, and he did not understand people who stayed up. And it would be, I remember the very first time he came to meet my family, and it was like midnight. And instead of going to bed, we were like, what movie should we watch, or should we have a water fight in the house at midnight, So that's, I just have always been a night girl. And after I married my husband and we owned a couple stores, we had a salon and we had a dry cleaner, I would stay up late. I'd put my kids to bed, and then I would stay up late, and at like midnight, I'd start doing the books. And I'd have to manually enter in our computer like all the paper tickets from the dry cleaner that day. And I would wait till I had a big old stack, and then I would just stay up from like midnight to like 4 a.m. putting in all these tickets years ago. And I just remember, and then in the morning, I would just sleep in. And I trained my kids to sleep in with me. When they were little, I would wake up and I'd be like, come snuggle with mom and get in bed and let's all go back to sleep. So that's how I have lived for most of my life. And I really didn't understand the damage it was doing to me, because the more you live like that, the more your sleep cycles, your wake and sleep cycles, or your circadian rhythm gets off. And it's not healthy for your body. And I was just living, that's what I would live. And probably because when I went to bed, I always laid awake. I could never go to sleep. Even if I was exhausted, I would still just like lay awake at night for hours. And it's like my mind would race and I couldn't shut it off. And if I fell asleep and then something woke me up, oh my goodness. Like, I would get so mad, because I would look at the clock and I'd be like, I only have 2 more hours of sleep. Why did I wake up early? I'm not going to get all my sleep, because in the morning I just was so exhausted and tired all the time, and I was fatigued all the time. And so I always thought that if I could just have 5 more minutes, then I would sleep better. And if I could just hit that snooze until the very last moment. So I'm the kind of person that like can get ready in 5 minutes. Like, I am quicker than my husband. Let's just say that, because I learned that if I could get ready quick, then I could sleep in. And even in high school, like, I would sleep in until the very last moment, catch my bus, and then get ready at school. I'd take my curling irons and my makeup, and I'd get ready once I got to school on the bus, because then I could sleep in longer. So my sleep history has never been that good. And starting a few years ago, when I started to heal my gut and realized that I was actually getting rest at night. I was getting into a deep sleep. I was giving the rest my body needed, so that when I woke up in the morning, I actually like felt rested. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you wake up and you still feel like a garbage truck just hit you. And even if you had 10 hours of sleep, you're like, I still feel exhausted. I used to like try to catch up on my sleep on the weekends, and I'd be like, okay, we don't have anything this Saturday, so do not open that door and nobody wake up mom because I'm catching up on my sleep. And I would sleep till noon or 1 if I could. Most of the time the kids would come in at like 10. But if you came in before like 10 a.m. or 9, I would get so upset. I was the meanest mom because I'd be like, that's my sleep time. Let me sleep. And so I started healing my gut and balancing my blood sugar and working on my inflammation. And I remember the very first time I slept through the night and I woke up and I was like, I feel rested. Like I feel good. I feel like I'm not exhausted. And then the next morning I woke up again and it was like 6 a.m. and I wasn't tired. I didn't want to hit snooze. I wanted to just get out of bed. And I was like, what do morning people do? I've never ever been a morning person. So I'm like, what do I do? What do morning people do? And I could not figure it out. I'm like, why would you ever get out of bed if you didn't have to? Like, I understand you have to get up early, 6 a.m. to get to work. I had a neighbor who used to get up at like 4 a.m. so she could have 12 cups of coffee by the time she left at 6. Like, she had a purpose. So she got up early, she could drink her coffee, read her newspaper, whatever, so she went to work. Or you have to get up at 6 to be to work by 7. Like, there's a purpose to getting out of bed early. But who would get out of bed when they didn't need to, you know? And so I didn't know what to do. And so I just started doing laundry in the morning, and I'm like, well, you always have laundry, so let's go do some laundry. So I started doing laundry, and the next morning I woke up again, like without an alarm clock. And it's like 6 a.m. and I'm like wide awake and I'm rested. Usually if I'm like wide awake, it's like I'm still exhausted and I want to go back to sleep. So I got up and did laundry again, and it took a couple days for my husband to finally like come to me, and he's like, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? And he's like, I don't know what I did. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I did something because you've been getting out of bed and just like leaving in the mornings, and like you've never ever done that. So the only way you would ever get out of bed is because you were like mad at me. And I've been racking my brain trying to figure out what I did. And I'm like, no, I just am rested and I like have been getting sleep. And so I've been getting out of bed and like not knowing what to do. And so I've been just doing laundry and stuff. And he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, I've been worried for days trying to like figure out what I did wrong because you kept getting out of bed and I just couldn't figure out why, because that's not like you. And we just had a really, really good laugh. And I have now become a morning person, and I love it because now I can like have a morning ritual where I get up at 5 and I get to read and I get to meditate, get to enjoy my mornings. I love, now that the sun's up early, I sit on my porch and I just sit in front of the sun and just absorb the energy of the sun. Like, I love it. And I sit out there and I'll read a book and pray or meditate or whatever and just enjoy the beauty and the nature. And it's a little bit harder in the winter. So in the winter, I just come up to my office and in the dark, I meditate and stuff like that. And then I can go exercise. And then I can come back and it's like 7 or 8 a.m. and I've already got like my reading in and my exercising done and I'm ready to start my day. And I accomplish so much more because I've had my rest. I'm energized. I have the sleep I need to get. And so some of the theories behind it is that your gut health affects that circadian rhythm. And when you have poor gut health, like the gut doesn't send the impulses and it affects the circadian rhythm, so it doesn't trigger the immune system, and it affects your sleep and it affects the cycles. And so you have to be really careful, especially if you're like a shift worker, like nurses or, you know, swing shift workers, things like that, because a lot of times you're a night and then a day and then 2 days on the night and 2 days on the day or whatever. And so your body gets off because your body's not using its rhythms properly because you're like messing them up every like 2 to 4 days, you know. And so if you're aware of that, you want to be really careful to also make sure you have a good gut and that you try to stay on those good schedules and work on your gut health so that it can help that circadian rhythm and it doesn't get worse. And when it gets worse, then it also triggers the cortisol, which affects your sleep as well. And so there's a lot of things that go into the gut health in affecting your sleep. And when you can just have that good microbiome balance and be healthy in the gut, then you can have those circadian rhythms. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you have to kind of train it a little bit. Like, I started waking up, and I think I just was making up for all the years of being exhausted. And so, like, I would just get up all the time. But a lot of times it does take a while to train your body and start getting up earlier, and, you know, and making sure that you get up at the same time every day, whether or not you need to get up, you know. So on a Saturday, just try to keep the same schedule that you do Monday through Friday, and go to bed earlier. That was the other thing, is I was never tired at night. Like, I was just so wired. And now that my body's healthy, my body actually gets tired. And that's the way God meant it to be. God meant your body to get tired at night, so you want to go to bed, and then to get up, you know, when the sun rises and the morning's here, so that you can, like, get up and have the proper day and have the energy you need. Like, our body has the ability to heal itself. It just sometimes needs a little help and needs a little tools. So hopefully that helps give you a little insight into sleep and how your gut can affect your sleep and affect your circadian rhythms, your cortisol that can be affected by your blood sugar and your insulin, and your sleep is all links back to gut health as well. And your stress affects your cortisol. And we'll talk about that next time when we talk about stress, because stress really, really affects your body. But I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.